Your retirement number is a lie, not a guess, not a maybe, a straight-up hundreds of thousands of dollars lie. Open any retirement calculator right now. You type in your age, your income, your savings, you hit calculate, and it calmly tells you you'll need $1.9 million. You're behind. You must save $2,300 every month. You don't need a finance degree to know that's impossible. So you do what most people do. You close the tab, you go back to work, and a tiny part of you accepts that you'll probably be working until your body gives out. Here's what almost nobody will say to your face. For a huge percentage of people, that number is garbage. Not because money is easy, not because there's a secret hack, but because the formula behind that number was never designed for someone like you. If you want to be work optional in your 40s or 50s, if you're willing to be a bit flexible with lifestyle, if you're open to earning even a small amount from work you actually enjoy, you do not need $2 or $3 million to walk away. For many people in the US and Europe, the real number that buys back your time is closer to half of what those calculators show. On this channel, Wealth Escape Plan, that's the only thing we care about. Turning "I'll die at my desk" into "I know exactly how much I need to never depend on a boss again." In this video, I'm going to give you something the calculators never do: a clear personal freedom number, the smallest amount you realistically need invested to fund a simple, comfortable life where every job is optional. No hype, no lottery tickets, just clean math based on your actual life. Quick disclaimer. This is education, not personal financial advice. I don't know your exact situation. I'm giving you a framework, not orders. If retirement calculators have ever made you feel like the game is already lost, give me the next few minutes. You're going to see exactly how those numbers are inflated and how to replace them with a target you can actually reach. Let's start by ripping apart the hidden assumptions those tools make about your life. Think about what a normal retirement calculator asks you: your age, your income, how much you've saved, and how much you want to spend each year after you stop working. You type in a number that feels right, hit enter, and boom, it spits out a target big enough to make you dizzy. What it doesn't show you are the hidden settings running in the background. Those tools are built for one very narrow version of life. You keep working at a traditional job until your mid-60s. You stop completely. You never earn another cent. You insist on spending the exact same amount every single year no matter what the economy's doing, and you refuse to move somewhere cheaper or adjust if things get rough. In other words, the calculator assumes you're a fragile robot with one setting: spend. To protect that version of you, it uses very conservative rules, like you can only take out about 4% of your investments per year, and it treats every bump in the market like the end of the world. That's how you end up needing a mountain of money just to feel safe. But ask yourself honestly, does that sound like the life you're planning? You're younger. You're watching a channel called Wealth Escape Plan, which means you're already thinking differently. If you had enough money to walk away from your current job, would you really sit on a sofa for 35 years and do nothing? Or would you travel for a bit, maybe freelance, start a small project, move to a cheaper, more interesting place, say yes to work you enjoy and no to work you hate? Early retirement, or what I prefer to call work-optional living, is not the same thing as stopping forever. It's about taking control of your time long before the traditional system gives you permission. The problem is the calculators can't see any of that flexibility. They assume no income ever again and no adjustment ever, so they overshoot, sometimes by a little, sometimes by a mile. Before we fix the math, we need to fix your definition of retirement, because if we don't, you'll keep aiming at someone else's life and wondering why it feels impossible. Close your eyes for a second and forget the word retirement. It's too loaded. Instead, imagine Tuesday. Not vacation Tuesday, normal Tuesday. You wake up without an alarm. You're not rushing for a train or scrolling work emails before you even brush your teeth.
You make breakfast. Maybe you go to the gym. Maybe you work on something you care about for a few hours. Maybe you don't. Money isn't driving the schedule anymore. That is the real goal. Not doing nothing, but choosing what your days look like. There are two very different versions of this life. Version 1 is luxury fantasy. Big house, new car every few years, business class flights, constant shopping, expensive restaurants as a default. That lifestyle is possible, but yes, it needs millions. Version 2 is what most people actually want deep down. A safe, comfortable home, good food, time with people they like, some travel, hobbies, and health. No panic when the bill arrives. You don't care about impressing strangers. You care about not being owned by your job. This second version is called financial independence. That's what we're chasing here. You hit financial independence when your investments and passive income cover the cost of a good, simple life. Any work you do after that is optional. Once you see it this way, the key question changes. Instead of, how do I replace my entire salary forever? You ask, how much does that good, simple Tuesday actually cost each year? Here's the twist. Your current spending is a terrible guide because it's polluted by three things: costs you only pay because of your job, stuff you bought on autopilot, and status upgrades you barely enjoy. If we want a real number, we have to strip all of that out and price the life you'd choose if your boss disappeared tomorrow. That clean spending number is the foundation for everything that comes next. In the next part, we'll build it together, step by step, using your own bank data, not guesswork, not wishful thinking. Let's build your real baseline. The cost of that good, simple Tuesday life once work is optional. You don't need fancy software. You need three things: your last few months of transactions, a pen, and brutal honesty. Step 1. Find your current annual spend. Open your banking app or statements for the last 3 to 6 months. Add up what you spent each month, then divide by the number of months to get an average. Multiply that by 12. Let's say the total is $60,000 a year. That's what normal life is costing you right now. Step 2, print or export those transactions and start tagging them. For each line, ask, what bucket does this really belong in? Bucket A is essentials: rent or mortgage for a modest place, groceries and basic meals out, utilities and internet, basic transport, fuel, transit, car insurance, healthcare and insurance, a small amount for simple fun. Bucket B is job-driven: commute costs and parking, work clothes and dry cleaning, lunches and coffees you only buy because you're rushed, extra childcare purely to cover long hours, courses and licenses tied to your current career. Bucket C is autopilot: subscriptions you forgot to cancel, impulse online orders, I had a bad day spending, upgrades you did for ego, not joy. Be honest. If a cost disappears the moment your job is optional, it belongs in Bucket B. If you could cut it tomorrow and your life would be just as good a month from now, it's Bucket C. Step 3. Build your alternate budget. Imagine you've reached work-optional life. You're not commuting every day, you have time to cook, you can choose where you live, within reason. Which of those Bucket B and Bucket C expenses truly survive in that world? Add up the essentials plus whatever optional items you still genuinely want. In a lot of real cases I've seen, a $60,000 normal year drops to something like $38,000 or $40,000 for a calm, comfortable, work-optional life. That new lower figure is your baseline. It's not starvation, it's not a tent in the woods, it's just your life minus the noise. Write that number down. Circle it. This is the core input almost every retirement calculator gets wrong for people like you. Now we're ready to turn that baseline into a concrete freedom number you can actually chase. You've got your baseline. Let's say it's $40,000 a year to live that good, simple Tuesday life. Now we turn that into the amount of invested money you'd need to cover it. We'll use the same basic idea the traditional world uses, but this time with your real spending and your real flexibility. The rule of thumb looks like this. Freedom number is approximately equal to baseline annual expenses times 25. That 25 comes from flipping a 4% withdrawal rate. 1 divided by 0.04 is 25. It's not a law of physics, it's a guideline, a starting point, not a commandment. So, with a 40,000 baseline, 40,000 times 25 equals 1 million. Already, that's probably lower than what calculators told you, because we cleaned up your spending first. But we're not stopping there. Remember something crucial. Most early retirees do not go from 100% work to 0% work forever. Almost everyone ends up making at least a little money, doing something low stress. So ask a serious question. In a work-optional life, how much could you happily earn from things you enjoy? Not your current income, something like tutoring online a few hours a week, freelance design, coding, writing, coaching or consulting, seasonal work at a place you like, renting a spare room or a small property. Be conservative. Maybe that number is $10,000 a year. Now your portfolio doesn't have to cover $40,000. It only has to cover $30,000. At a 4% rule of thumb, 30,000 times 25 equals 750,000. Suddenly, the target dropped by $250,000 or euros just by acknowledging reality. You're not going to turn your brain off at 45. If you're also comfortable with a bit of flexibility, for example, cutting some optional travel when markets are ugly, you might aim for more like a 4.5% withdrawal rate. A quick shortcut is multiplied by 22 instead of 25. 30,000 times 22 equals 660,000. That's your I have options number, not your luxury fantasy number. For many people watching this, 650 to 750K is no longer science fiction. It's 10 to 15 years of focused saving and investing, sometimes less. In the next part, we'll talk about how to push that target down even further so you can reach it years earlier without turning your life into a punishment. Here's the beautiful part of this math. Every permanent change you make to your baseline shrinks your freedom number. Remember, each dollar you cut from your yearly spending knocks roughly $25 off the portfolio you need. Drop your baseline by $5,000 a year, and you lower your target by about $125,000. Drop it by $10,000, and you just removed $250,000 from the finish line. So where do you get that kind of leverage without hating your life? First, housing. This is the monster. For many people, it eats 30 to 40% of their budget. If your rent or mortgage is $2,000 a month, that's $24,000 a year. At a 4% withdrawal rate, just paying for that roof needs roughly $600,000 invested. Now imagine changing the script. Maybe you move from a hot city to a still nice, less trendy one, trade a big apartment for a smaller, smarter layout, share a bigger place with someone you actually like, or rent out a spare room or a basement unit. If you can bring that housing cost down to $1,300 a month, that's about $15,600 a year. You've just cut $8,400 from your baseline. Multiply by 25, and your freedom number falls by $210,000. One deliberate decision beat a lifetime of tiny sacrifices. Second, geography. Once your income is mostly from investments or online work, you are no longer chained to one expensive spot on the map. In the U.S., that might mean leaving San Francisco, New York, or Boston for a mid-sized city with half the rent and saner prices. In Europe, it might mean swapping London or Zurich for a regional city, or moving from the north to a more affordable country in the south. If that move takes your baseline from 40,000 down to 28,000, your 4% freedom number drops from 1 million to 700,000. Same you, same passport, dramatically different math. Third, recurring commitments. Car payments, subscription stacks, private schools, lifestyle debt. All of these lock you into higher baselines. Every loan you pay off, every monthly bill you eliminate, permanently lowers the portfolio you need to be free. At the same time, don't forget the other side of the equation, income. The more you can earn now through raises, promotions, or side income, the more you can invest, the faster you get there. A higher savings rate can turn never into 10 years from now surprisingly fast. In the final part, we'll put it all together and talk about the mental game, how to actually walk away when your numbers say you can, and how to build a plan you trust enough to live. You run the numbers and realize something shocking. With a 32,000 baseline and a bit of side income, your freedom number isn't 2 million, it's closer to 600, 700K. For the first time, the target doesn't feel like a joke. Then the fear kicks in. What if the market crashes? What if I miscalculated? What if I quit and regret it? This is where most people quietly sabotage themselves. Their spreadsheet says they're done, but their brain says one more year, just to be safe. Then one more, then another. 5 years later, they're still there. Let's diffuse that. First, understand that risk isn't about withdrawing money. It's about withdrawing when the market is temporarily ugly. The danger is quitting your job the exact year everything drops 30% and being forced to sell assets at bad prices to eat. You can plan around that. A simple rule: once you're close to your freedom number, start building a calm fund of 1 to 2 years of essential expenses in cash or very safe bonds. When markets are fine, you withdraw normally from your portfolio. When markets tank, you live off the calm fund, cut a bit of optional spending, and give your investments time to recover. Second, practice spending before you fully walk away. When you're around 70 to 80% of your target, choose 1 or 2 things a year to pay for out of your investments instead of your paycheck. A weekend trip, a laptop, a course. Watch what actually happens. The balance wiggles. Dividends still come in. Your life does not explode. You are teaching your nervous system that using your money is not a crime. It is the entire point. Third, remember that financial independence is a door you can walk back through. If you quit, try a year of work-optional life, and genuinely hate it, you can go back to work. Maybe not to the exact same job, but to something. You are not jumping off a cliff. You are stepping off a treadmill that you can always step back onto if you decide to. So here's your homework if you're serious. Tonight, pull your last 3 months of spending. Tag every expense, build your baseline. Then run the 2 numbers from this video, baseline times 25 and baseline minus realistic side income times 25. Write them down. For the first time, you won't be staring at some random calculator's guess. You'll be staring at your life priced honestly. If that number scares you, good. You know what you're aiming at. If it excites you because it's lower than you expected, even better. Now the question isn't, is it possible? It's, how fast can I get there if I take this seriously? If you want help with that part, the investing, the savings rate, the step-by-step escape plan, hit subscribe to Wealth Escape Plan and watch the next video in this series. That's where we turn this number into a real timeline and a real strategy you can follow.